I lost my job because my manager hated the smell of cigarettes. But she didn't just fire me. She tried to destroy my career, humiliate me, and make an example out of me. What she didn't know was that I had something she didn't: industry knowledge, connections, and the ability to burn her entire plan to ash without ever stepping foot in that office again. This is the story of how I turned my own firing into more than a year of income and watched her lose everything she tried to take from me. When I first walked into the university building that hired me, I felt a mix of excitement and nerves. Back then, it wasn't normal to find many people who did what I did. Content creation wasn't a trend. It wasn't a career everyone understood. YouTube was still growing, and institutions were only just beginning to realize its potential. So when the university offered me a position, I took it as a sign that I was finally stepping into something stable. The building itself felt like a relic of the past. Yellowed walls, flickering lights, old computers humming like they were begging for retirement. It smelled faintly like chalk and decades of forgotten projects. I didn't mind. I believed that a humble start was still a start. On my second day, my manager called me into her office. She looked friendly, almost proud of herself as she handed me a printed sheet. I thought it was some onboarding checklist, maybe details about the video schedule. But no, it was my KPI, 85 videos, 3 to 10 minutes long, all in 1 year, all done by me alone. I blinked slowly, trying to understand. 85 fully produced videos was the workload of an entire team. I looked up and asked carefully, "Is this correct?" She nodded with a bright smile. "Yes, just do your best. If the quality is good, I won't nitpick the quantity too much." I should have known better, but I was young, hungry, hopeful. So I told myself to try. Even if the task was impossible, at least I would learn from it. The first month went smoothly. She praised my creativity. She told colleagues I was a great hire. She even joked that I worked like a full production squad. I didn't mind the extra effort. I brought my own equipment because the university cameras looked like antiques. Their computers struggled to play basic footage, so editing on them was like trying to swim through cement. Still, I put in long hours, 6 days a week, over 60 hours most weeks. Not because anyone asked me to, but because I wanted the final product to be good. I wanted to prove myself. Then came the moment the entire tone shifted. It started over something small, something that shouldn't matter. I was outside during break having a smoke. I wasn't hiding it, and no rules said I couldn't. When I returned inside, a colleague saw me and immediately winced. She rubbed her forehead like she had just witnessed something catastrophic. "What happened?" I asked. She sighed. "She knows you smoke." I frowned, confused. "And what?" She lowered her voice. "She hates smokers. She's tried to get people fired before. She thinks it's unprofessional." I didn't take it seriously. I honestly thought it was a small issue. But the next morning, my manager didn't greet me. Instead, she sniffed the air dramatically, wrinkled her nose, and looked at me like I had dragged dirt into her home. And that was the start of my personal nightmare. Suddenly, everything I did became a problem. The videos I worked hard on were suddenly not up to standard. Scripts she previously approved were now too weak. If my break ran a minute long, she acted like I committed a crime. If I wasn't reachable during lunch, she complained. If I arrived 5 minutes late after staying till 10 at night, she wrote it down. Every day felt like walking through a minefield. Couldn't relax. Couldn't breathe. Everything I touched became a weapon she used against me. But I kept going anyway. I reminded myself that every job has difficult people. That maybe she was going through something. That maybe eventually she would ease up. I forced myself to stay calm even when I felt the tension crawl under my skin like electricity. Until 5 months in, I walked into the office feeling the weight of exhaustion heavy on my shoulders. Before I could even sit, she sent me a message. "Director wants to see you." My heart dropped. The hallway leading to the director's office felt unnaturally long that day. When I walked in, my manager was already there. She looked pleased. Too pleased. Like she had been waiting for this moment. The director folded her hands. She didn't smile. She didn't soften her tone. "We are halfway through the year," she said. "Your KPI is 85 videos. You have completed 30. I felt my pulse thrum in my ears. 30 was a miracle given the workload. 30 meant grinding myself into the ground. I tried to explain. I walked them through my process, the lack of proper equipment, the hours I worked, the fact that my videos were pulling in the highest views the university had ever seen. I reminded my manager of what she told me on day 2. Quality over quantity. She cut me off with a plain voice. "I never said that." The director simply nodded like her mind was already made. "This isn't working. We will be letting you go." I wasn't angry yet. I was numb, like the ground had quietly disappeared beneath my feet. But then I asked the question that changed everything. "How will you hit the KPI now?" My manager smirked. A sharp, proud, cruel little expression. "We'll hire a professional production house," she said. "Real professionals who can deliver." And that was when the light bulb went off in my mind. They were about to fire the only person who knew every production house in the region because it was literally part of my job to manage those contacts. They had no idea how dependent they were on my information. They had no idea what would happen if I decided to flip the board. So as I walked out of that office, something inside me hardened. They wanted a professional production house. Fine, I would give them one, but not in the way they imagined. I walked out of that director's office with my heartbeat pounding like I had sprinted a mile. Not from fear, at least not only fear, but from the sudden rush of clarity. For months, I had been drowning under impossible expectations. I had bent over backwards trying to make up for outdated equipment, lack of staff, horrible leadership, and emotional sabotage. I had tried to be patient, tried to endure, but as the office door closed behind me, something in my chest shifted. Felt like a weight falling off, but also like a switch flipping on. The kind of switch that changes the shape of a person's thoughts. I wasn't powerless. They just assumed I was. The walk back to my desk felt different. I noticed details I had been too stressed to see before. The flickering light above the hallway, the old furniture, the worn carpets, the tired faces of employees who all walked like they were carrying silent burdens. In that moment, I realized something important. This place had been draining me for months, but they didn't own me. I owed them nothing now. When I sat at my desk, I didn't cry, panic, or break down. I opened the internal production contacts file. My file. The one only I had been maintaining. The one my manager had no idea how to navigate because she wasn't from the industry and barely understood the difference between a producer and a director of photography. There were dozens of production houses listed, and I knew exactly which ones were reputable, which ones were expensive, which ones were slow, which ones were so disorganized they couldn't find their own inbox, and which ones were hungry for work. They were going to call these companies. They were going to look through this file and assume everything was untouched. All I had to do was decide how to shape the chaos they were walking into. I scrolled through the list slowly, breathing steadily, letting myself feel every ounce of the betrayal that led me here. The unpaid overtime, the stress, the nitpicking, the humiliation, the dismissal of my work as if I hadn't poured my life into it. And that's when the idea crystallized, sharp, dangerous, but undeniably fair. They fired me for not producing 85 videos in a year. Let's see how they handled paying for 85 videos at the real market price. I changed the contact numbers. Not all of them, that would make it too obvious. Just enough to cause confusion. Some numbers went to voicemail loops. Some to old landlines no longer active. Some emails got updated with one incorrect letter. Some websites suddenly led to outdated pages. The directory now looked legitimate but broken. Frustrating but not suspicious. And then I left one entry untouched. Just one. The production house where my friend worked as a junior director. A small company but hungry, smart, capable, and willing to move quickly. My hands didn't shake as I updated the information. There was no guilt, no hesitation. This wasn't sabotage. This was truth. The truth of what real production costs. The truth of what it takes to produce at the level they demanded. The truth they refused to acknowledge while paying me pennies and robbing me of my time. After I finished, I packed my things. The office felt quieter that day, as if it sensed something shifting. Before I left, the colleague who warned me about the smoking issue approached me, eyes soft with worry. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "She's done this before, but not like this. It wasn't fair." I gave her a small smile. "It's okay. It's not over." She blinked. "What do you mean?" I shrugged gently. "You'll see." I didn't say it with malice. I said it with certainty. When I returned home, the exhaustion sank into my bones. The kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from physical labor but from months of emotional warfare. I slept early that night, like my body needed to power down before the next chapter of my life began. The next morning, I contacted my friend. He picked up on the first ring. "You're alive. What happened?" "Heard something went down." "I got fired," I said plainly. He cursed under his breath. "For what?" "For smoking." There was a long silence. Then he said, "You're kidding." "I wish I was." "Listen, I have a plan. One that can help both of us." I told him everything. The firing, the KPI, the directory, the opportunity. When I finished, he let out a slow exhale. "You're serious?" "Oh, I'm very serious." He didn't even hesitate. "Hold on. Let me get my general manager." This sounds big. Minutes later, I was on a conference call with his GM. A sharp guy with a business sense that could smell opportunity a mile away. "So let me get this straight," he said. "You're saying we might be called to pitch a 6-month project with a university? A big project. And you're giving us insight on how to win it." "Yes," I said. "And in return, I want a standard 15% finder's fee." There wasn't even a pause. "Done. If this comes through, we'll formalize everything. Give us the pitch structure, the details, the tone, everything you know they want." And I did. For nearly 2 hours, I gave them a masterclass. I explained the university style, the director's preferences, the themes they wanted to highlight, the kind of language that swayed them. I gave them the exact recipe to win. Not because I wanted revenge, at least not only revenge, but because I wanted fairness. I wanted to see my friend succeed. I wanted to see my value recognized somewhere, even if it wasn't by the place that fired me. 2 days later, my friend messaged me. They called. "We're pitching on Friday." I felt a slow, deep satisfaction spread through my chest. It was beginning. On Friday, after the pitch, he called me again, sounding breathless. They're amazed. They said we understand their brand better than their own team. They're leaning toward choosing us. Of course they were. They were hearing their own expectations being repeated back to them perfectly. Their own internal language, their own preferences, their own fears and goals. 1 week later, the contract was signed. And just like that, the university was now paying a full professional production house to finish the work they thought I was too slow to complete. 50 videos, high quality, fast turnaround, full staff. Every video cost double or triple my monthly salary. Every piece of the project ate into their budget. Every invoice pushed them closer to the financial cliff they didn't see coming. Meanwhile, I waited quietly for my 15%. And when the first payment came through, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief, freedom, vindication. Not because of the money, although it was life-changing, but because I finally proved something to myself. They didn't fire me because I wasn't good enough. They fired me because they underestimated me. And that underestimation was about to cost them 10 times their entire content budget. But the real fallout, the real explosion, the real collapse, that hadn't even started yet. Because the woman who fired me was about to lose everything she tried to take from me. And she wouldn't even see it coming. For the first time in months, I felt free. Not victorious. Not triumphant. Just free. Like someone had finally lifted the weight of a collapsing building off my back. But even as I embraced that feeling, I knew the story wasn't finished. The revenge hadn't fully unfolded yet. My part was only the setup. The real consequences were still on their way to the people who deserved them most. After the production house secured the deal, I traveled for a short holiday. I needed to breathe, to reset. I chose Bali because I wanted somewhere warm, somewhere calm, somewhere far away from fluorescent office lighting and the sound of an old desktop wheezing like it was begging for retirement. The salt in the air, the heat of the sun, the distant crash of waves. It all felt like medicine for a tired mind. Every morning, I sat on the balcony of my hotel, watching the sunrise bleed slowly across the horizon. The ocean glowed gold, and for the first time in a long while, my shoulders unclenched. My body remembered what rest felt like. I slept without waking up in the middle of the night thinking about unfinished edits or impossible deadlines. And then, in the middle of that peaceful escape, my phone buzzed. It was my friend from the production house. "We just finished our first 2 videos," he said with pride. "Client is thrilled. Director is praising us like we're saving the world." I smiled softly. "I told you, you know what you're doing. You just needed the right door to open." He paused for a moment. "Honestly, this deal is huge for us. It's giving us credibility in spaces we never had before. I wanted to thank you again." "You earned it," I said simply. "I just showed you where the door was. Still, you should know, you changed a lot for us." After the call ended, I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ocean for a long moment. Revenge wasn't supposed to feel warm or peaceful, but there was something deeply satisfying about watching good people rise while bad people dug their own graves. Back at the university, things were moving quickly. My friend kept me updated from time to time. The production house delivered video after video with perfect efficiency. Every 2 or 3 days, a new one was completed. They had specialized staff: producers, editors, camera operators, sound engineers, lighting techs, assistants. They weren't exhausted one-man armies. They were professionals working at full capacity. But each new video came with a cost, and not a small one. Each invoice from the production house represented 2 to 3 months of my previous salary. And the university was ordering dozens. They needed 50 videos to make up the difference. By the time they completed them, the total budget consumed was 10 times larger than the original content creation budget assigned to my manager. 10 times. My manager, drunk on desperation, approved every expense without hesitation. She wanted to show her director she could handle the KPI. She wanted to prove firing me was the right decision. She wanted to finish the project at any cost. And she did. At any cost. But here's the thing about institutions. There are rules. There are budgets. There are chains of command. And she was breaking all of them. The money she was spending, she didn't have approval for it. She didn't have any authority to make those decisions without higher-level consent. And she didn't even realize the financial firestorm she was walking into. Meanwhile, I received my 15% fee on schedule. When the payments hit my account, I just sat there in silence, staring at the numbers. It didn't feel real. 15 months of my salary, paid out quietly, cleanly, without stress or overtime. Money I earned not by suffering, but by finally valuing my own experience and knowledge. With that money, I paid for the rest of my Bali trip. I enrolled in a respected film program overseas. I invested in new equipment. I rebuilt myself. And yet, even then, the story wasn't over. One evening, while I was still in Bali, I received a call from a number I recognized. It was my old colleague, the one who warned me about my manager's hatred of smokers. She never called unless something big happened. When I answered, her voice was shaky. "You won't believe what just happened." My stomach tightened in anticipation. "What?" Silence stretched for a moment. Then she said in a dramatic whisper, "She got fired." I sat up straight. "Wait, who?" "Your manager. She's gone. Completely gone. Walked out today with her box." It was brutal. I didn't speak for a moment. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. Instead, I felt a calm, slow wave of justice settle over me. "What happened?" I asked quietly. "You know the content project you were hired for," she continued. "The budget was supposed to cover 1.5 years of your salary. That's it. Nothing more. And now," she let out a small, breathless laugh, "they overspent it by 10 times. 10 times. I leaned back against the pillows, stunned despite everything I suspected. "She approved everything?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Every invoice. Every cost. Every extra hour. She didn't ask the director. She didn't even inform finance. She just kept approving things because she wanted to finish the KPI before the year ended. And now the chancellor stepped in? "Oh yes," she said. "He's furious. The director got a massive reprimand. Your manager? Fired on the spot. No warning. No negotiations. Just security escorting her out." I closed my eyes for a second. Not smiling. Not celebrating. Just breathing. It wasn't joy I felt. It wasn't excitement. It was release. A slow exhale of every sleepless night. Every insult. Every humiliation. Every moment she made me feel small. My colleague wasn't done. "There's more," she whispered. "They realized all the production houses listed in your file were unreachable except one. Someone said it must have been a mistake. But the chancellor didn't believe it. He thinks she covered it up or mishandled it." I didn't say a word. Not a single word. "And your friend's production house?" she continued. "They're getting praise left and right. The director said they're the perfect fit. People are saying if you had been allowed to continue with your own workflow, you would have saved the university a fortune." The irony wasn't lost on me. The person who fired me to fix the problem had become the biggest problem the university ever had. The person who tried to ruin my career had accidentally built a better one for me. The person who hated my cigarette smell had burned her own future to the ground. As I listened to the waves crashing outside my window, a strange mixture of peace and power washed over me. Not aggressive, not vindictive, just knowing that justice had unfolded naturally, without me lifting a finger beyond letting the truth surface. Before ending the call, my colleague said something I will never forget. "You know, this entire mess? It all started because she wanted you gone. The chancellor said something today. He said, if she just treated you fairly, none of this would have happened. You would have saved the school hundreds of thousands." I sat there quietly, letting the truth of that settle. My revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It wasn't reckless. It was precision. It was patience. It was letting arrogance destroy itself. After the call ended, I stepped outside to the balcony. The sky was turning shades of deep blue, and the wind carried the scent of salt. I took a deep breath and smiled softly to myself. She tried to make me an example, but in the end, she became one instead. After that call in Bali, I didn't rush back home. I didn't stalk the university's page to see what people were saying. I didn't replay the story over and over in my head the way some people do when victory finally lands in their hands. Instead, I sat with it quietly. The ocean breeze brushed against my skin, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt like the world was finally balanced. Justice didn't always need fireworks. Sometimes it showed up in silence, in consequences that unfolded without your fingerprints on them, in the simple truth that when someone pushes a good person too far, the damage eventually loops back to them like an echo they can't escape. A few days later, my friend called again from the production house. "We just wrapped our 10th video," he said with a smile in his voice. "It's moving fast." "I knew you'd do well," I said. "You're proving your worth." "You know what the funny thing is?" he asked. "Your old director keeps praising us for understanding the university better than any other production house. But everything she praises us for is literally what you taught us during that coaching call." I laughed softly. That's the irony. They fired the one person who actually understood their brand. "Honestly," he said, "the GM is talking about promoting me to a full director after this project. This contract pushed us into a new league." I leaned back on the chair, staring at the horizon. "That makes me happy. You deserve it." It was a strange thing, knowing that my downfall had become someone else's rise. But that's the kind of satisfaction that grows deeper roots. The kind that lasts beyond the moment and turns into permanent, steady confidence. When I eventually returned home, everything felt different. My old routine, the drive past the university, even the smell of morning air felt like a reminder that I had survived something corrosive, that I wasn't going back to that life of stress and humiliation. I walked with a different posture. My shoulders relaxed, my steps quiet but grounded. Soon after, I received the final portion of my finder's fee. The amount was enough to make me stare at my bank screen in disbelief for several minutes. 15 months of my old salary, earned without overtime, without emotional warfare, without being treated like a disposable tool, felt surreal. Not because of the money itself, but because of what it represented. A validation of my skills, a reminder of my worth, a quiet proof that I never deserved the treatment I endured. With that money, I completed my enrollment at a respected film school overseas. I bought equipment I had only dreamed of owning. I rebuilt my portfolio. I redefined the direction of my future. Every step forward felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that had been chipped away. A month passed before I heard from my old colleague again. She reached out by text. "You have no idea how chaotic things are here." I sent back, "What now?" She replied, "The chancellor ordered a full audit of the project." "It's bad." I asked, "How bad?" After a pause, she sent, "They discovered the total cost exceeded the assigned budget by more than 10 times. Finance is furious. Director is under review. Your old manager is permanently blacklisted here. Word is spreading to other institutions too." I stared at my phone for a long moment. Not satisfied, not smug, just reflective. People often think revenge is about watching someone cry or crumble. But real revenge, the kind that stays with you, is about watching the truth surface in a way that no one can deny. Watching consequences land exactly where they belong. My colleague called me later that evening. Her voice held a mix of disbelief and awe. "They blamed her for everything," she said. "Apparently she approved invoices she had no authority to sign. She didn't get permission for any of it. And when they questioned her, she tried to blame the production house for overcharging." I raised an eyebrow even though she couldn't see me. "Overcharging? They charged the normal market price." "Exactly," she said. Finance said the same thing. The chancellor even asked, "Why didn't we stay with our internal content creator? Why did we spend 10 times more for the same thing?" There was a pause. Then she added quietly, "They said your work was better." That part hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't praise I needed, it was validation. After months of being treated like I couldn't do anything right, after being nitpicked and belittled, after being told I wasn't meeting expectations, hearing that felt like a weight sliding off my chest. She continued, "They said if she didn't fire you, the school would have saved hundreds of thousands. That your work was consistent, creative, and aligned with the university's brand." For a moment, I didn't speak. I wasn't overcome with emotion. I wasn't dramatic. I was simply at peace. My colleague sighed softly. "She destroyed her own career trying to destroy yours." There it was. The truth in its purest form. Revenge, wrapped in irony so perfect it felt scripted. After that call, I sat alone in my apartment, letting everything settle. The timeline, the decisions, the fallout, the justice, the silence. In life, there are moments when someone pushes you into a corner, thinking you will stay small forever. They forget that quiet people have sharp minds, that underestimated people learn to be strategic, that mistreated people eventually stop tolerating disrespect, and when they do, their choices become precise and powerful. My manager always underestimated me. She thought firing me would erase me. She thought pushing me out would prove her superiority. She thought she held all the power. But she never understood one thing. You cannot control someone who knows exactly how to rebuild themselves. And you cannot predict what a person is capable of when they have nothing left to lose. Months later, I received another call from my friend at the production house, now a full director. "You know," he said, tone light but grateful, "every success I'm having now, you played a role in it."
I'm glad, I replied.
"You earned your place. And you?" he asked. "How do you feel about the whole thing now that time has passed?" I thought about that for a moment. "I feel like justice handled itself," I said simply. "All I did was step out of the way and let the truth do what it does, because that was the real essence of it. I didn't sabotage the university. I didn't destroy documents or hack directories or cause chaos. I simply let them see the real cost of what they thought was easy. I let them walk into the world they pretended to understand. The universe handled the rest. Before we ended the call, he laughed and said, "If you ever want a job here, just say the word." I smiled. I appreciate it, but I'm building something new now, and a new career, a new path, a new version of myself that was no longer afraid to value my own knowledge, no longer willing to shrink to make a bad leader comfortable, no longer tied to people who mistook kindness for weakness. Some stories end with explosions. Some end with dramatic confrontations. Mine ended with silence, balance, and the kind of poetic justice that settles deep into your bones. My manager tried to bury me, but she forgot the most important truth. When you bury someone who knows they are a seed, they grow back stronger, and she never recovered from the fallout of her own decisions. If there is anything I learned from this experience, it is this: your value doesn't disappear just because someone else is too small to recognize it. Mistreatment is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their insecurity. And sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply stepping aside and letting the consequences of their actions speak louder than anything you could ever do. I didn't fight them. I didn't argue with them. I didn't try to prove myself to people who never cared. I just let the truth unfold. And it was enough. If you enjoyed this story of quiet justice, hit the like button so the algorithm knows you want more. Subscribe for more long-form revenge stories that remind you that karma is patient, precise, and always on time. And comment below if you've ever been underestimated. Your story might be the next one I bring to life.